you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this Road to Recovery video. Visit their website to learn how the Grizzly Drive drum motor increases the reliability and reduces the cost of ownership of conveyor systems.
Hey there, Kevin Yannick of Pit and Quarry Magazine. We've got with us today Richard Branch, Chief Economist at Dodge Data and Analytics. Richard, thanks for being back here.
Kevin, it's a pleasure to be back. Happy to talk to you.
We're here in March. I think the last time we talked was around the holidays in December. And right now we've seen COVID relief kind of pass the Senate. There's a lot of money being put forward there. And here at Pit and Quarry, we're certainly hoping there's enough money in the coffers to help out infrastructure because that's been in the headlines lately. And the president has a $2 trillion Build Back Better plan. So, Richard, really curious where you're at with that plan today, and are there big potential impacts, positive impacts for the construction industry ahead here in 21?
Sure. Well, you're right that a $2 trillion infrastructure program could be a pretty significant game changer in terms of the forward track of construction starts across a broad range of categories. Of course, there are significant challenges involved with that. You mentioned that the COVID-19 relief bill that the president should be signing at some point within the next week or so, with no bipartisan support. So is there stomach in Congress for another big spending plan? What that remains to be seen. I do think, though, that if there's one area where there is broad bipartisan and bicameral support is towards infrastructure. I think we all recognize, whether we're in the construction industry or not, that the need for increased spending on roads, on bridges, on environmental public works like sewers and waters, that is a real and present need for the economy.
Richard, do you have a sense of how much of the $2 trillion might be dedicated to roads and bridges? I know we're seeing a lack of bipartisanship with the COVID bill. I wonder if a bill on infrastructure were to be pushed forward, what would that mean for the types of things that money is going toward?
Sure. Well, we haven't seen a line item breakdown yet. We do know that the president is scheduled to speak to Congress this month on the infrastructure package, but that was already delayed. And I think once we get the COVID-19 bill out there and signed, that we'll start to see forward progress on this. So we haven't really seen a line item breakdown. I would expect, in terms of the different categories where we would expect to see an impact from an infrastructure bill, I think public works is the number one component on that. Of course, public works would include roads and bridges and sewer and water and transit systems. Most likely part of that public works infrastructure package would be a renewal of or a brand new 5-year surface transportation program. Of course, the FAST Act was extended through September 31st, 2021, set to expire then. So I'd imagine that part of this will be that new 5-year plan. Aside from public works, though, I think there could be money set aside for, we mentioned transit, we mentioned high-speed rail is a potential winner. Renovations as well. A large part of the campaign around Build Back Better was directed towards climate change. And if there are tax credits or monies made available to make buildings more energy efficient, that would certainly be good news for the construction industry in terms of, more improved HVAC systems, doors, windows, building envelopes, and whatnot. And then that segues right into utility scale renewable construction. If you look at all the generation that has broken ground, electrical generation that has broken ground over the past decade or so, about 60% of that, in terms of the dollar value, has been utility scale wind and solar. So a lot of construction jobs could be added there. Then you need to add, there's some other categories where we could see an impact. Rural broadband was another discussion point during the campaign. And of course, that has kind of a two-tailed effect in construction. First, from the actual building and digging trenches and building, adding the lines and assets and whatnot, but also data centers. We need to move those megabytes around in a fairly rapid fashion, and data centers have been a strong point in terms of construction over the last couple of years. And then finally, I do think there's possibly one sleeper category in terms of potential infrastructure. It was not discussed at all during the campaign, but I think healthcare might see some money too. I think the one thing that the pandemic has somewhat laid bare is the lack of surge capacity in the nation's hospitals in terms of inpatient bed count. So there might be some dollars allocated there, and that would, of course, be a benefit to healthcare construction.
Thank you to Vandergraaf for sponsoring this Road to Recovery video. Visit their website to learn how the Grizzly Drive drum motor increases the reliability and reduces the cost of ownership of conveyor systems.